In my past life, I gave up the chance to be adopted by a wealthy family to my sister, but instead of being grateful, she encouraged our adoptive parents to beat me to death. In this life, when the wealthy man showed up at my house, I made sure my birthmark was visible as I stood in front of my sister. "Are you looking for me?" My sister went to great lengths to get us both adopted. She was smug and whispered to me that one day, she'd kick me out of the Givenchy family. But this time, she didn't know I'm not the same old me. I plan on getting revenge for my past self. The smell of mold filled my nose like tiny bugs crawling up my nasal passages. I woke up suddenly, coughing hard. I spat some bloody stomach acid onto the floor, sending dust flying, dancing in the dim light like little monsters. I lay back on the bed, took a deep breath, and my thoughts flooded back. I've been reborn. The concrete walls before me were full of cracks, with cobwebs hanging in the corners, just like the ones I'd seen for over 10 years. Suddenly, I remembered something, grabbed my phone, and the dim light from the cracked screen shone on my face. Today's July 8th, the day my biological father came to claim me in the previous life. Thinking of this, I ignored my discomfort and sprinted out the door. This time, I wasn't about to let my sister take the adoption opportunity from me. I pushed open the heavy iron door, and blinding sunlight poured onto my face. Luckily, I wasn't late. Seeing me, Kitty looked a bit awkward. "Lou, sis, what are you doing here?" I knew she planned to take my place to be claimed, but now wasn't the time to expose her. I had more important things to do. I walked past her and approached the man in the suit. "Are you looking for me?" The man's stern face softened when he saw me. I continued, "I was the one who donated blood after your car accident. I just wanted to help someone, and I never thought I'd find my dad that way." Hearing this, Lucas looked pleased. A daughter lost for years, raised to be kind and composed, was something the elite like him were thankful for. He extended his arms, and I squeezed out a couple of tears, leaning into his embrace. "The moment I saw you, I felt a deep connection. Is this the father-daughter bond?" The man held me tenderly, and through his glasses, I saw Kitty's face turn dark as coal behind us. We both grew up in the orphanage, and after being adopted, she always turned me against my adoptive parents. No one can resist a clever, silver-tongued child, so the quiet me was bullied all my life. But not this time. I wasn't going to keep quiet, and I'd take back what was mine. "Are you mistaken?" Kitty bit her red lips pale, staring unblinkingly, tears glistening in her eyes. She moved her hair to show a similar birthmark behind her ear. I knew that birthmark was fake, burned into her skin to mimic mine. She used this trick to steal my parents in the past life. Seeing the identical birthmark, Lucas looked skeptical. Back then, I didn't fight Kitty and lost the chance, ultimately my life. But now, I would not accept things quietly. I lowered my eyes, casting thick lashes shadows under them. "Sis, what are you doing?" "Oh, this birthmark." I acted surprised and touched the skin behind her ear. A real birthmark looks different from a burn scar. Kitty was too eager. The wound hadn't even healed before showing it off. I pressed harder, and she grimaced in pain. "So, that's why you asked me for the poker, to burn this?" Disappointment and heartache from betrayal flashed in my eyes. "We grew up together. Even if I leave, you're still my little sister. Why do this, Kitty?" Hearing this, Kitty's face changed. She seemed to be in a last-ditch effort. "Anyway, if you don't take me, you're not going to leave either." With that, she, unable to bear it, ran back to her room, rubbing her red eyes. She thought this would make Lucas sympathize, but she forgot he was a businessman. No businessman likes a losing deal. He looked at me, memories seemed to flash in his eyes. "You look just like your mom." That statement clarified his stance, totally different from last life. I sighed in relief, but my adoptive parents rushed out next. Perhaps Kitty told them something. Their eyes burned with fury towards me. I was sure if Lucas wasn't there, fists would fly at me any second. "Mr. Lucas, we don't agree for you to take Luna. Luna's the one we've raised, and we have feelings for her." I almost laughed. If their feelings meant beatings, then it ran deep. Kitty likely made some deal with them. Sure enough, when Lucas offered compensation, they demanded that Kitty come too, or I wouldn't be allowed to leave. Lucas's face showed no emotion, but I knew he wasn't happy about that outcome. "It's okay, Dad. As long as the family reunites, I don't care about anything else." Hearing this, a hint of comfort appeared on his face. "All right, then." I glanced back at Kitty. She couldn't hide her smirk. Seeing me look, she gave a challenging grin, like she was saying she'd eventually kick me out of the Givenchy house. Too, I looked away, smirking where she couldn't see. Turns out, we'll see who kicks who out of the Givenchy house. The moment Kitty saw the Givenchy family villa, her eyes practically lit up. She looked around with this undisguised greed on her face. Lucas saw it too, a nasty glint flashing in his eyes, but said nothing. Then he got a call and left after giving a few casual instructions. After he left, a butler-like person invited us in. Seemed like they got orders from Lucas. I got a room on the 3rd floor, while Kitty's was on the 2nd. She thinks I should only get her leftovers. So how could I get a better room than her? Of course, Kitty wasn't happy. She tossed her suitcase, and things rolled everywhere. Why'd they set it up like this? How come she gets to stay on the 3rd floor, but I'm stuck on the 2nd? Are you looking down on me? The butler looked a bit shocked, but quickly put on a standard smile. Miss Kitty, this is Mr. Lucas's arrangement. It's not up to me. No way. Kitty screeched like a riled-up sparrow, her sharp voice echoing through the villa. We're both his daughters. How could he treat us differently? Some maids tried to pick up her stuff, but got pushed away by a fuming Kitty. She was about to say more when the door to a 3rd floor room swung open. What's going on out here? The speaker looked a lot like Lucas, just younger and more dashing. Obviously, this was the Givenchy family's eldest son, my brother, Simon. Seeing Simon, Kitty's bravado melted away like she hoped nothing happened. Simon looked between us with a sigh. Now, since you're both back at the Givenchys, you're both my sisters. Let's not fight over such petty things. If she wants the 3rd floor room, let her have it, all right. Kitty's face flashed with triumph at his words, her gaze even more challenging. I bit my lip, forcing out a few tears. Brother, you're right. I'm not a petty person. A couple of tears slid from my eyes, making them red. It's my first time back home, my first room of my own. I used to stay in the basement before. When I said that, disbelief flickered across Simon's face. Didn't someone adopt you? Why would you stay in a basement? I sighed just loud enough for him to hear, my eyes full of envy. I guess they liked my sister better. I thought coming home meant living with family, but if you say so, I'll give the room to my sister. Simon gave me a look filled with guilt. He opened his mouth, maybe to say something, but before he could, Lucas's voice came from behind. Luna is the Givenchy's biological daughter, so she belongs on the 3rd floor. That's my decision. Have a problem? A large hand rested lightly on my shoulder. Turning, I met Lucas's gaze, full of love and regret. Luna, you've suffered enough over the years. With me around, you won't face another ounce of hardship. When the family head speaks, even if people don't like it, they won't dare oppose it. Kitty lugged her suitcase downstairs. She hid her displeasure, reluctantly accepting the decision in front of Lucas. Passing by me, she whispered, full of undisguised threat, today's victory won't save you next time. I just smiled slightly. All right, I'll be waiting. Dinner was elaborate, with all sorts of food I'd never seen. With what happened earlier, Kitty started whining right at the start of the meal. Dad, having dinner with you and Big Bro feels so blessed. In my old family, I couldn't even sit at the table while Sis had meals with our foster parents. I shot her a look. The one who couldn't eat at the table was me. Now she's acting like it was her. Kitty droned on with her wild tales. I used to eat Sis's leftovers, but now I get such delicious food. I feel like my life has no regrets now. As she said that, Simon shot me a disapproving glance, like Kitty was his sister, not me. He picked up a chicken leg with his own chopsticks and put it on Kitty's plate. You've had a tough time. Here, have some chicken. I won't let you go through that again. Really? She looked up at Simon with starry eyes. Of course, Simon couldn't help but ruffle her hair. From now on, tell me whatever you want to eat. Watching the cozy scene, I stayed silent, subtly pulling up my sleeve, revealing arms covered with scars. Kitty wanted to play the pitiful card but overlooked a simple fact. She was pampered all her life, not a hint of hunger or abuse on her. My arm caught Dad's attention, and his expression darkened, but Kitty continued twisting facts. Luna, what's with your arm? Dad asked suddenly, eyes full of pity. The table went quiet, all eyes on me. For that moment, both Kitty and Simon's expressions changed. I acted nonchalant, pulling my sleeve back down. 1. It's okay, my foster parents often beat me. These scars are from that time. 2. They hardly fed me, so I wasn't getting the right nutrients and the wounds healed slowly. That's why you noticed them. 3. Sorry, am I affecting your appetite? Dad's face looked like storm clouds before a hurricane as he threw down his chopsticks. They made a sharp clinking sound on the marble table. Simon, you're out of your mind. Why worry about others when your own sister is right here? Kitty's face turned somber, tears rolling down her cheeks. Unable to handle it, she bolted to her room. Simon glanced at me with guilt in his eyes. After hesitating for a while, he turned to follow Kitty. You're not allowed to go. I'd like to see who dares to chase her today. Sit down and eat. Dad's tone was severe, making Simon comply and sit back down. I gave him a timid smile. He seemed regretful and passed me a drumstick. Luna, you're my sister too. If you ever need anything or if someone bullies you, just tell me. I'll take care of it. I took a small bite, looking at him with admiration. Thank you, brother. Simon hesitated as if he wanted to say more but ultimately stayed silent. Kitty expected people to beg her to eat like before, but reality was a harsh slap. After that day, she looked at me with even more hatred, like I was a thorn in her side. Now that Kitty's part of the Givenchy family, she feels she's on a whole new level. She looks down on the housemaids, ordering them around with a superior attitude. But she's not completely foolish. In front of Lucas and Simon, she always acts like an innocent little bunny. But she forgot one thing: walk by the river long enough, you're bound to get your feet wet. One day, Simon, who was supposed to be working late, called me saying he'd be home for dinner. I glanced at Kitty lounging on the couch. A plan formed in my mind. Seeing only 2 place settings at dinner, Kitty dropped her facade. She plopped down at the table, watching the maid bring out dish after dish. But when a large copper pot wobbled near Kitty, some soup splashed onto her. Are you trying to get yourself killed? Kitty exploded, shoving the maid violently. The boiling pot tipped, scalding her with soup. The maid fell, writhing in pain. What are you doing? I sprang up to help the maid. Luna, stop pretending to be the good guy. Do you know how expensive this dress is? The maid would never be able to repay it in her lifetime. The maid's hands were blistered. Tears stained her wrinkled face. Yet she didn't dare cry in front of Kitty. I'm sorry, Miss Kitty. It was an accident. Sorry. Is that enough? Kitty sneered. What about my dress? You need to stop. I stepped in front of the maid. Mary has a son in school. How can she compensate for your dress? How will they survive? Didn't you come from poverty too? Why make life harder for people already struggling? Kitty's face twisted in disdain. What's that got to do with me? Who cares if I was poor before? Now, I've joined the Givenchy family. I'm their Missy. I'm not going back to that life. I looked at her, disappointment all over my face. Dad and brother have done so much for you, and this is how you repay them. Do you have any conscience? Kitty said nothing, just smirked coldly. I didn't bother with her anymore. Just called for the family doctor. You're calling a doctor for her? Kitty frowned. Isn't that a bit much for a maid? I was about to argue back when Dad's voice cut in. You've forgotten your roots. He rushed over, helping me support Mary. After assessing Mary's burns, Dad's expression darkened. Kitty hadn't expected Dad to be back. She was flustered and stumbled over her words, but he wasn't interested. What crushed her more was Simon entering, looking at her with utter disappointment. It's not like that. I just loved the dress brother gave me. Brother, please don't look at me like that. It scares me. But Simon responded only with silence. After the doctor treated Mary, Dad finally turned to Kitty, his gaze icy. I brought you in only to get Luna back. I'm keeping you here out of respect for the past promise. But if you continue with this attitude, I'll send you back, and you'll live that life again. With that, Dad didn't spare her another glance and went back to his room, leaving Kitty in tears. After that, Kitty behaved for a long while. She seemed to realize that if kicked out of the Givenchy family, she'd have nothing. As the school year approached, Kitty butted up to Dad more and more. I knew what she wanted. The coveted spot at a university. After dinner one night, Kitty appeared all frail and demure, offering Dad a cup of tea. Dad, have some tea. Since that incident, she'd been extra cautious when speaking to him. Dad looked up at her, not sure what he was thinking about, then picked up his cup of tea and took a sip. Seeing him drink the tea, a hint of slyness flashed across Kitty's face. Dad, I want to talk to you about something. Dad raised an eyebrow, with an expression that said I thought so, but he still spoke. What is it? Kitty swallowed hard. I want to go to a university. Didn't you take the entrance exam this year? Why do you need my help? Dad put the teacup down, his tone very cold. I understood. Being a self-made man, Dad wasn't a fan of cheating the system. And Kitty didn't see this coming. She teared up a bit. My previous education wasn't great. The school's level was limited, and I couldn't get into a university. Looking at her pitiful expression, our brother, who had been a bit distant from her lately, softened up. Come on, Dad. She didn't go to a great school. It makes sense she didn't get into a university. With the Givenchy family's influence, getting someone into a university shouldn't be a problem. HMPH. Dad snorted, turning his gaze to me. Luna, do you think I should do it? Hearing that, I went over and poured out his cold tea, replacing it with a fresh hot one. Logically, a university is a place for learning. Even with the Givenchy family's power, you shouldn't spoil its atmosphere. Emotionally, Kitty is my sister. I understand her wanting to attend the same college as me. So, Dad looked at me. Luna got into a university. I nodded, not showing a hint of arrogance over my achievement. Mary, who was sweeping the floor, couldn't help but chime in. Sir, I read about it before. Miss Luna is the top scorer in the city. Is that so? Dad beamed with pride. She's truly my daughter. I humbly lowered my head. It's thanks to your good genes, Dad. And, of course, the teacher's guidance. When I said that, Dad's face turned a bit sour, looking at Kitty. You both went to the same school. Why could your sister make it to a university and not you? Don't blame the environment if you lack capability. He then turned, slipping a beautiful jade bracelet onto my wrist. Luna, you've been away from us for so long, yet you're still amazing. Keep up the work, dear. I'll never let you down. This wasn't just a jade bracelet. It was a symbol of the Givenchy family's status. I raised my wrist, meeting Kitty's resentful eyes, and smiled at Dad. I got it, Dad. In the end, Kitty did attend a university. After bugging our brother for ages, he finally got annoyed and pulled some strings to get her in. After succeeding, she boasted to me, clearly full of smugness. I just smiled, staying quiet. She thought it showcased our brother's affection, unaware his view of her had changed. Once college started, I quickly settled in and became class monitor, thanks to my outstanding skills. Kitty, on the other hand, got in through connections, lacked knowledge, and soon faded into the background. One day, before class, as the teacher hadn't arrived yet, I was taking attendance, but nobody answered. Looking up, I caught Kitty trying to hide her laughter. I instantly understood, closed the attendance book, and went back to my seat. Just as I sat down, a sticky feeling came from underneath. I quickly stood up, discovering someone had poured red liquid on my seat. Without a word, I texted the teacher asking for leave, covered my pants with my coat, and left the classroom. Kitty followed me not far behind. This is the result of crossing me. If you don't want 4 years of bullying, leave the Givenchy family quietly. Being the Givenchy heiress can only be mine. That's why you're bullying me? I asked, my voice slightly trembling. Why not? She said, jealousy written all over her face. Why does Dad favor you? He gave you the family heirloom bracelet, but rejected my request to go to a university last year. Why? Since I can't change his mind, I'll just get rid of you. I turned to look at her, seeing her expression and realizing how different she was from her usual image, a dark, menacing presence. At last, her act slipped, I thought. I stopped recording, barely holding back a laugh. She just handed me the reason I needed to get her out of the Givenchy family. Having gotten the evidence, I didn't want to waste more words with her and left the building. I anonymously sent the recording to the student council president, our brother. I was sure he'd make the right call after hearing it. Afterward, I took a leave and headed home. Walking through the door, Dad greeted me with worry. Luna, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? I gave him a weak smile, a bit. But don't worry, Dad. I'll be fine after a couple days of rest. My words made our brother on the couch visibly uneasy. I walked over and poured myself a glass of water. He took the jug from my trembling hands, a determined look crossing his eyes. Dad, there's something I need to discuss with you. To keep me from hearing, they went into Dad's room and talked for quite some time. Knowing it was all set, I dragged myself to bed and took a long, peaceful nap. I woke to knocking, opening the door to see Kitty's frantic face. You sent the recording, didn't you? It was all your plan, wasn't it? Not saying a word, I let her claw at my clothes and even scratch my face. My brother rushed over and pulled her away. Kitty, are you crazy, bro? What do you mean? Didn't you tell me yourself that I'm your sister? Now even you don't want me, right? Simon didn't say anything, just turned his head away and stopped looking at her. Fine. Kitty suddenly started laughing, but then big tears rolled down her cheeks. We're both daughters of the Givenchy family. She gets all your care, while I get kicked out of the house. With some kind of newfound courage, she bolted downstairs, confronting Dad. You were the one who wanted to adopt me, and now you regret it, right? Kind. You're just a hypocrite. Dad said nothing, his face darkened. My brother gently patted my head, then hurried downstairs and pushed Kitty to the ground. I suggest you take it easy. We planned to treat you as a real daughter of the Givenchy family since we took you in. But you kept pushing our limits, not only spreading lies and trying to drive a wedge between us and Luna, but you even encouraged classmates to bully Luna. You let us down, step by step, leading to what's happening now. After he finished, Simon's face was already flushed red, veins bulging on his forehead, as he seemed to hold back his temper. Kitty didn't expect her usually gentle brother to get so aggressive. She was scared out of her wits. She turned her head to the man who had once said he'd adopt her, but Dad responded with nothing but icy indifference. I walked slowly downstairs and stopped beside her. My whole life, I've lived under your shadow. You've insulted me, mocked me, made me take the fall for you, drove a wedge between me and my adoptive parents, and urged them to hit me. I endured all of it, but then you tried to take my real dad and brother, and said you'd kick me out of the Givenchy house. I just want to live with my family, and even that small wish you want to take away. After I finished, tears streamed uncontrollably down my face. My brother looked at me with a pained expression, and Dad walked over and hugged me tightly. Luna, I promise, no one will take what's yours anymore. After saying this, he looked at Kitty, the love in his eyes gone. You can keep studying at a university. I'll support you until you graduate, but I won't let you stay in the Givenchy house, or bully my daughter anymore. Hearing this, Kitty's face filled with despair. Her gaze turned vacant, as if she was about to collapse. Dad, please don't kick me out. I'll get along with my sister, please. But Dad's words crushed her last bit of hope. Don't call me Dad. Security, escort her out. I watched as security dragged her out of the Givenchy house, feeling almost euphoric beyond words. In my second chance, I finally reclaimed everything that was rightfully mine. Kitty took a leave of absence, claiming poor health. My brother did something to stop the bullying I faced at school, and more people started wanting to be friends with me. I began to really enjoy my college life. A month flew by, and as our classmates got closer, I, as class president, thought of organizing a dinner to strengthen our bonds. The restaurant was a hot pot place near a university. After dinner, some classmates who still wanted to have fun suggested karaoke. Not wanting to be a buzzkill, I agreed. Maybe because my life got so smooth after Kitty left, I forgot that she wasn't one to let things go easily. During karaoke, I had a few drinks and started feeling lightheaded. I whispered that I wasn't feeling well and planned to head home. But as soon as I walked out the KTV door, someone hit me hard on the back of the head, and I lost consciousness. I woke up to someone slapping me, and opening my eyes, I saw Kitty's face. She was slapping me like a madwoman, as if it would soothe her jealousy and hatred. Surprised, Luna, didn't think this would happen to you. Care to guess where you are now? I forced myself to stay calm, scanning the dimly lit room. The lighting was dim and ambiguous, and the red silk bed couldn't help but suggest some unpleasant scenarios. Seeing me like this, Kitty gave a satisfied smile. That's right. I'm about to offer you up to someone. Will Dad and brother still protect you like they used to if they find out you were violated? I desperately tried to move, but my legs were weak, clearly drugged. You're crazy. She burst into laughter when I said that. You're right. I'm crazy. I went crazy the moment I got kicked out of the Givenchy house. She reached out, tracing her cold fingers along my jaw. Having lived the life of a rich lady, how do you expect me to handle this drop back to normalcy? What choice do I have? I had to lower myself to be Jack's little plaything to get the wealthy life I wanted. The Jack family was just a small-time family, and the Jack she mentioned was known for having partners. I never expected Kitty would stoop so low for money, doing such things. But you know, whenever I think about you still in the Givenchy house, being the Givenchy princess, and enjoying what's supposed to be mine, I go crazy with jealousy. Luna, if I can't have it, neither can you. Now, I'm going to make you experience what I've gone through. She clapped her hands, and the door opened. A greasy man with a thick body walked in. His little eyes roamed over me, his oily face full of desire. Feeling sick from his stare, I pressed myself against the wall. I'm the Givenchy family's daughter. Dare to touch me and see. Jack gave me a disdainful look as he slowly walked toward me. So what? After tonight, you're mine. Once I have you, I can propose to the Givenchy family. Then you'll not only marry me, but also bring in your family's assets. My hands started shaking uncontrollably. Couldn't tell if it was from disgust or anger. Jack's greasy hand had already made its way to my thigh, his face full of greed and his eyes shining like a rat's. Just as he was about to reach further, the door suddenly burst open, and my brother appeared in front of me. Jack, you're asking for it. My brother rushed in and grabbed Jack by the neck. Then, a squad of cops stormed in and quickly cuffed Kitty too. She stared at me hard, her eyes filled with jealousy and resentment. Was this your plan too? No, I replied, all fear and worry washed away, replaced with calm. You're just too foolish. I can hold my liquor, but getting tipsy after just a few beers tonight didn't make sense. Do you think I'd be as foolish as you, going home alone when drunk? I texted my brother a while ago. Playing along was just to trap you. Kitty suddenly burst into laughter, struggling as if she wanted to take us both down. You ruined my life, Luna. You've always been second to me. So why can't it be the same this time? I walked up to her, rubbing the still aching back of my head. You destroyed your own life. Someone as vicious as you doesn't deserve a family's love. She tried to claw at my face, but the police quickly restrained her. After they dragged the two of them away, my brother came up to me, looking guilty. Sorry, Luna. I misjudged her before. If I'd known what she was like, I'd have never let her hurt you this much. It's okay, I said, smiling gently, brother. It's all over now. From now on, no one will ever take what's mine. The end.